or a month.
Right.
Then, at some point, irreversible things would begin to happen.
Well, sure, yeah. Embedded. Now, I understand the idea because there are embedded chips in cars and coffee makers, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about major systems.
Yeah, switching systems, power company things.
Now, the power companies have obviously done what they can about those non-embedded portions of the program.
That's correct, yeah, sure.
But you're saying that they're not telling us that there's a lot of stuff they just have to cross their fingers on.
Well, we know there is, and they know it too.
That's why they're buying generators, huh?
Well, listen, I've got a really nice generator here. And I didn't get worried until my power company came out and came in and said, listen, would you tell us, can we take a look at your generator system? We have a lot of customers asking about it. I said, sure. I said, let's trade a little bit of information. You tell me what kind of state you really think we're in. I want the real bottom line.
Right.
And what they told me was, well, we are prepared to leave the grid if we have to. If we, see things going south,
right,
we will disconnect from the grid and provide local power for, I think he said, up to 6 weeks.
Wow.
And all power companies are bound, they sign something that swears they'll stay on the grid. But all the power companies really, they're going to take care of their local customers if things begin to go south.
Right, right.
Now, one little power company in Idaho went down a few years ago, and the whole western third of the U.S. and Canada and Mexico,
right,
they all went off.
Yeah.
So if one little power company can do that, what's going to happen if 10% of them fail?
Yeah. It's nice to consider. I'm not even prepared, Art. I have a few cans of spaghetti. We have a couple of books of matches, and we feel we're going to be okay. But I'm along for the ride, and if I die, hey, it's okay with me as long as things get really messed up. I just like the idea that I can turn. Well, maybe I can't turn on the news. I guess I got one of those wind-up radios you have.
Yeah.
And I can listen to that, and I can hear how bad it is. I don't care, Art. You see, I'm just a person who doesn't care about these things. I really don't care. I know that when things like an earthquake, like I say, when the amusement park ride is out of your control, you have to just hold on and enjoy the ride. And I know that is a possibility, as you say, between now and the spring. I'm just hoping that a lot of overseas, a lot of other countries get really chaotic.
They're going to get hammered.
Yeah.
I had a guy who called me who said that he's looking around at everything that's happening on Earth right now, environmentally, in every other way you can imagine, socially, of kids killing kids, all the rest of it. And he's saying, Mother Earth is mad, and she's going to do something. And I said, no, Mother Earth doesn't get mad; she gets even. And that's what I think. I think if things get out of balance, that there'll be a return to balance, and that return to balance might mean a 25.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but as you say, a 25 and we don't get to enjoy it. Maybe something like a 12 where we can enjoy it.
Well, I just wrote out a 7 here a few weeks ago, and I don't care to do that at all. It was horrible.
How far is
Pahrump? The hell out of me.
How far is Pahrump from Las Vegas?
65 miles west.
I didn't realize it was that far.
I can look to the east, and the entire sky is lit up with the glow of all the lights from Las Vegas.
Yeah, the light dome.
Yep.
Well, I'm over here under the light dome, Art, and I can see Jupiter. At least I can see Jupiter. That's my favorite object in the sky.
Well, you get 65 miles away from that city, and you will see stars. You'll see the Milky Way from one side all the way to the other side of the horizon.
Well, I drive home from here every time I leave here, and I leave here 4 or 5 times a year, and I drive back to Los Angeles, and I always stop a couple of times out in the middle of everywhere and take a good look. I do know about the names of about 65 stars. I have to be up to snuff on them. Sometimes I get a little rusty, and I probably drop down to 40 or so. But I love the sky. I call it my backyard. I think of it as something unchanging that I can find it from Cleveland. I can find it from Manila. And it's regular and predictable, and I know my stars and I know my constellations. So I love it, and I know what you mean when you refer to that Milky Way.
Have you ever seen anything in that great sky that you cannot explain?
No, I'm a little disappointed in in what we'll call the world of the paranormal or the extra normal or whatever is a proper way to phrase it. I kind of root for and I wish for a sighting, a visitation, an experience of a ghost or an afterlife or a previous life or something. I've never had any of them. I have a fairly good intellect, and I'm very open to these things. I have my skepticism. I have that part. I do respect science and repeatable scientific experiments.
Are you really open to these things, though, or are you more of a control freak?
I'd have to say I don't know the answer to that.
In other words, if something happened, are you more likely to mentally reject it or embrace it?
Oh, no, I would be open to it. At least that's my opinion standing here now. I can't tell you what would happen under a given circumstance, but my feeling is that my knowledge of myself is such that I feel I would say, oh, please, look, come on down here, let's talk. Can I have a shirt like that? Let me have one of those funny hats. I mean, I'm being a little flip here, but I know that I am open and willing to experience some of this because I think there is so much unexplained and so much potential beyond this limited human experience and this spectrum that we can perceive, this limited visual spectrum and audio spectrum that we perceive. I think there's just much more, and I wish my radar were better.
Do you think that it's more likely that we are a product of the God of the Bible we talked about earlier, or perhaps intervention by others?
Well, I think very strongly that is the probability. I think there's a leap, and I'm not up to this. I'm not up on this as much as I was at one time when my reading was a little more intense. But I think there's a gap. There's a leap in human intellectual attainment that is unexplained, and I do believe it is probable that we are a hybrid of some kind. The book, Sitkin's book of the 12th Planet.
Sitchin, yes.
Yeah, I found that very stimulating and potentially believable.
Well, he postulates we were all a bunch of gold diggers.
Yes, that's right.
And that planet will come back, and you have to wonder what those who created with us would. I mean, look at California, for example. Now, this may be a little lighthearted, but when I was young, it was the coolest thing to go to California, and I did. I got up and I left and I went to California, and it was great. Today, when I go to California, I am appalled. I am absolutely appalled. I mean, what has happened to that golden state, that once great place to go to? It is regulated to death, taxed to death. It's a disaster. It's a social disaster. I mean, you can go and spend a little time in a lot of cities in California, and you can count the muzzle flashes, you know.
Yes, and it's just ugly. It's ugly to the eye, from the air, from the ground. There are too many humans to begin with everywhere. There are certainly too many of them packed into the population centers of California. I live in Southern California. The one thing I can say that I have good about my existence there is I live in Venice, down on those little canals, and I hear the ducks every night or in the middle of the morning, and at least I'm close to the ocean, and I'm a little bit away from the sound of traffic. And it's like a small oasis, but I agree with you, and I think it's true of most everywhere. Too many people, too much acquisition of goods, too many people hunting money and position and possessions. Everyone wants a salad shooter. Everyone wants a pair of sneakers with lights in them. Everyone wants a shirt with the number of some foolish basketball player on the back of it. And we've been bought off. We've been bought off with all these gadgets and toys. But two things I think that happened to this species that are irreversible and that destroyed us are the belief in a man in the sky, that's the sky god, as Gore Vidal calls him, the belief in the sky god who keeps a scorecard on us and has a burning pit of hell for some of us, and the other is the pursuit of goods, commerce, rampant consumerism. The next HBO show I do is called The Great American Cattle Drive. But the American cattle are not being prepared for market in order to be sold. They're there for buying. They're there to do the buying. Get them to the mall. Get these suckers to the mall. put them on the internet, get them buying from e-commerce, get them in the mall. It's just repulsive and disgusting, and it's one of the reasons I quit this species. It's one of the